Friend, it's Wednesday. That means it's another episode of the Whitening Wednesday podcast. And this episode has been on my heart to film for a while, but honestly, I keep fighting with myself on how to put this into words because it's such a hot topic and it's a hard topic to break down, especially if you don't have the fundamentals to build onto this theory. So I'm going to do my best. I really think the community needs to hear this, and let's dive into this episode of the Whitening Wednesday podcast. If you are a teeth whitening or tooth gem specialist, this is the podcast for you. My name's Rach, and I am the industry leader of all things teeth entrepreneurship. Together, let's learn from real-life experiences to must-have brands on how to take your business to the next level and leave that 9-to-5. Friend, welcome to Whitening Wednesday, and I'm so glad you are here. Let's build a safe industry together. Before diving into this week's show, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Fern Whitening Supplies. In this episode, you're going to hear so much about why low and slow additional bleaching at home is vital to results and safety for your clients. So friend, if you don't have a take-home option in your services yet, check out Fern Whitening Supplies, where you can find the ultimate take-home kit that will see at least 12 sessions at home for your client. That means your patient or client, depending on what service industry you are in, can whiten for an additional 12 days at home if needed. No branding, no gimmicks, great products. Fern Whitening Supplies has everything you need to provide safe and effective whitening in chair and at home for your clients. Don't forget to use code WW10 for 10% off your first order. Let's get on with the show. Today on the show, we are going to address the JUMPSTART technique. If you're not familiar with the JUMPSTART technique, it is what scientists and clinical studied dentists consider chairside whitening. So why do you think they call it and deem it the JUMPSTART technique? Well, first off, let's think about what chairside whitening is. Chairside whitening is the patient coming to you and you applying higher percentages of gels to the tooth structure. Now, let's think about it. If I have years and years of stain, is it scientifically possible to fully remove stain in under an hour? No. But you're probably like, what are you talking about, Rach? Like, I get glowing results in an hour. I've removed all that stain. Friend, you have not. So this is where the JUMPSTART technique comes in. Let's jump back a little bit. First things first, of course, we know the difference between hydrogen and carbamide. Now, let's talk about the actual breakdown of the tooth structure. So as we know, we have our extrinsic staining and our intrinsic staining. If you are providing a chairside service that's safe and effective and trying to get those optimal results, ideally you want to be removing that extrinsic surface stain with an exfoliant prior to bleaching. So once you've removed some extrinsic staining with an exfoliant, then placing on the bleaching gel is the next step of the process. Now, yes, you should be able to remove extrinsic stain to an extent, but the main area that our stain actually sits is intrinsically. So inside those dentin tubules is typically where the majority of our consumption stain actually lies. And this is where the false advertising starts. So in a perfect world, you're getting some good absorption and you're getting your peroxides, regardless of if that's a hydrogen or a carbamide, to start breaking down chairside. But both hydrogen and carbamide have extended working times of either 3 to 6 plus hours post chairside. So what that means is that from a scientific standpoint, if you think about what I just said, if it takes a peroxide 3 to 6 plus hours to actually fully oxidize and break down, then there is no physical way we are giving a client an actual real result within 60 minutes. So where is this bright white color coming from? It's coming from dehydration, okay? Dehydration is your friend and your enemy at the same time when you're providing a safe chairside service. So you do need dehydration because to get your tooth to actually absorb well, it needs to be in a dehydrated state. So this is why LED lights are important, and this is also why isolation, keeping the mouth dry, is important. Now, once you've gotten to a level of dehydration, that's when your tooth tubules will actually start absorbing and oxidizing out those peroxides. Now, don't get me wrong, we are going to see some actual absorption chairside, but think about how a tooth works. The tips of the teeth are a lot lighter than the gingival margin of the tooth, so towards the apex of the tooth. And that's just because of the thickness. So our enamel is a lot thicker along the gingival margin. What that means is that you physically cannot remove stain along the gingival margin well within 60 minutes. And it's literally due to the scientific anatomy of a tooth. So how do you know if you've provided a safe chairside session or you've provided a fake dehydration session? Here's the breakdown. If you have provided a safe session, you have not overextended your contact time. So that means that you have not gone over 2 rounds of 20 or 2 rounds of 15. Because if we know if our full goal is actually to allow that oxidization to happen post chairside, remember that 3 to 6 post hour working time, then what is the point of doing extra rounds, right? That's not going to help our post chair. We want the gel to get in there and absorbed. We don't want extra time and extra product being used because it's not helping our actual long-term goal. So that's step 1, is really think about, okay, did I provide enough working time for the gels to get absorbed? That's step 1. Step 2 would be that you have provided a whitening and a bleaching step. So exfoliant and bleaching gels. That would be step 2. But I guess technically exfoliant would be step 1. And then we would go into making sure that we're not over contact time and we've allowed some absorption happening with our gels. So from there, that's literally all you can do in a chairside session. Okay? That is it. So first things first, your client might think, wow, I'm not as bright as I thought I was. Explain the absorption process. Your client should always continue to brighten in the next 24 hours. What you should also be letting your client know is that the only scientific studied way to achieve a long-term B1 shade is low and slow at home. We're talking 0.1% carbamide for over 30 plus days at home. That is a long time, and that is why your patients want fake results over true results. So let's go back to providing safe and effective results. So we want to stay under 2 rounds of 15 or 20 minutes, and we want to add in those extra steps. From there, what we also want to do is typically add in some sort of take home that they can continue to brighten with at home. So our chairside session is we've jump started. We've given them a boost with that light. So we've gotten the tooth dehydrated. Let's say dehydrated in a safe way. Then what we're going to do is send something home with the patient, okay? if that's a take-home pen or if that's a mini kit, a full kit. We want to send the patient home with something so that they can continue to brighten over the next 2 weeks. So we've dehydrated the tooth safely and the tubules are opened. So ideally, we want to piggyback off of that for the next 2 weeks. They should be whitening at home for the next 2 weeks with bleaching gels that you've sent home with them. Remember, these aren't the Chairside strong gels that you just use. These are take-home gels. This is going to range anywhere from 9 to 14% hydrogen to a 22% carbamide. So we're talking low and slow. This is ideal. If you are in a dental setting, you might be doing custom trays, but honestly, you can do this really well with just nice dual trays. So Chairside, take home. JUMPSTART Chairside, finish brightening at take home. So don't get me wrong, this is our preferred method that we have been doing for so long and great results. Okay, you're going to get that instant gratification that your client likes, but it's going to only get brighter over time when the next 24 hours, and then you're going to send home a take home for them to continue that brightness with. If after 2 weeks they have followed those steps and they're still not happy with their results, that's when you need to consider, okay, does this patient have history of tobacco, marijuana? Is there actually intrinsic stain from medication or developmental, etc.? Like, why isn't this patient brightening? Because, friend, that's a lot of gel. If they've done a chairside session with you and a set of take home and they still aren't happy with their results, you either have a Karen or you have something going on with the enamel. So check that out. But let's get to the hot, spicy topic of this industry's considered chairside technique. Okay, so I really came to mind the other day. I was on Instagram and there was an Instagram account who is a cosmetic teeth whitening provider, and all over their bio and in their feed says guaranteed results or the service is free. This is beyond frustrating because if you are providing a safe and effective teeth whitening service and you understand how teeth whitening actually works, you can never, and I mean never, guarantee a result for a patient or a client, regardless of what setting you're in. Why? Because of the anatomy. As we know, you've probably seen it yourself. You cannot guarantee results at all. It doesn't matter what gel percentage you're working with. It doesn't matter what company you're working with. You cannot guarantee results. So at this point, you're probably thinking, well, Rach, that's bullshit because I've seen, so many great results chairside, or, I see all these bright results on Instagram. Like, yes, these are guaranteed results. No, friend. These are guaranteed dehydrated results. So let's talk about dehydration a little bit more. You've heard me talk about it even earlier in this episode. We want a state of dehydration, but this is what's happening in this unregulated industry is that techs are only dehydrating and they are literally giving their patients the falsest results possible. And this is what happens. You're going to be working with a company that's working with low-level gels. You're probably under a 20%. And they're going to have you do 4, 5, 6 rounds of gel on the tooth structure. So this might be in rounds of 15. This might be in rounds of 20, etc. So you are actually leaving the patient under the light for 60 to 90 minutes. This is absurd. There is not one clinical research piece of paper out there that says that this is safe or effective for a patient or a client. Why do companies do this? It's because they know that their gels, because what did we just learn? It takes time to break down, that their gels are not going to get you a result. So to get a result and to get your client that instant gratification, you have to get that tooth as thirsty as human possible so it looks like as white as can be. So that's what happens. Patients get put under an LED light and get round after round of straight hydrogen just to get dehydrated. And the biggest indicator, and what I love so much, is you're dehydrating if you take everything off and the gingival margins are as white and as crisp as can be, because what did we just talk about? The tooth structure along the gingival margin is so thick, you physically cannot remove intrinsic stain along the gingival margin. For that gel needs to break down. You cannot remove it there. So that means that if you don't have some yellowing along your gingival margins, then you have only done one thing, friend. You have only dehydrated. So let's go over why is this happening and why does this continue to happen? It comes down to a lack of education that's not being provided. And it's also just coming down to money, right? There's just been so much false information poured into this industry that these results are seen as the norm because that's just what's all over social media. So how do we explain to a provider who has been taught the wrong way? This is how I would explain it. The purpose of a chairside session is to give your patients a safe result that entices them to move forward with more whitening. Okay, so that means that your chairside result should definitely make your patients happy. Absolutely, they should notice a difference, especially if you're providing whitening and bleaching. They should still be quite bright. But then if they want to continue, they need to continue at home with a low and slow session at home. So why is dehydration happening? Dehydration, when it happens, it is causing a lot more harm than good. So not only does the tooth look false white, like you're giving your patient a false result, but you are also causing harm to the pulp. Okay, the pulp of the tooth, the nerve of the tooth, this is becoming extremely inflamed. There's a lot of research studies on this, and it shows that the pulp is inflamed. It's irritated because you've overloaded it with hydrogen for the most part. I mean, the odd time somebody might be over boosting carbamide, but it's not as common. You've over inserted hydrogen, and then you've also caused irritation from the LED light. There's lots of studies on curing light safety, and curing light safety is all about making sure that you don't turn your tooth into that pulpitis stage, and it's due to over curing. So you do have to be very careful with your LED lights, especially those ones that are super, super strong, like the Beyond, etc. Those are crazy, crazy intensity levels, and that's why you only do 2 rounds of 12 opposed to, a gazillion fake rounds of the shitty lights. So that being said, this is why it's so important to stop dehydrating. You're putting your patient's safety at risk and you're giving them a false result. I guarantee that the majority of results that are looking so white after one in-chair session are gone within, I wouldn't say gone. I would say they are depleted in 48 hours. They're gone in 2 weeks. That's what I would say. So this is something that I really wanted to bring up and to really address. So let's review. Chairside teeth whitening is a JUMPSTART technique. Yes, you should be able to get results if you're doing it safe and effectively. But if a patient is adamant that they want long-lasting and the brightest results possible, it is not through chairside whitening. It's through a mixture of chairside and then low and slow at home. Hands down, every cited research article states this. So please, please, please look into that. Recap. What's fake whitening? Fake whitening is what we see on social media where it says that you can get guaranteed white wall results. in less than 60 minutes. This is only dehydration. This is not whitening. And unfortunately, unless, the community really can come together, I don't think we're going to win this one. I think there's always going to be those technicians who only care about vanity, not safety. And this is another, jab at the industry, because the reason that this industry is so poorly looked down on is the lack of education and the crappy product use. So if we want to turn this industry into a safe occupation, we need to start having these conversations. We need to start having conversations about providing safe and long-lasting results. We need to start using products that are legitimate, right? You've heard me talk about this before. If you are thinking about your products right now and you don't know what the lot number is, what's in it, where is it made? What exactly is it made of? Then you are posing a huge risk to your community if you do not know your lot numbers, your ingredients, your expiry dates. This is so, so important. And our industry is really looked down upon because we aren't doing things properly. We're not providing client safety. So these are huge things. And the last thing that we really need to touch on is pricing. So a little side tangent here, but the reason that the dental industry is so harsh on this industry is not because of just the things that I just mentioned, but also the undercutting. So if you're charging $99, let's just use that as an example, and yet you're claiming that you're providing a safe and effective service, there is not one person who actually cares about their safety that's going to come to you. I'm going to say it right now, because why would a client come to you when you're undercutting a dental office so much that they don't feel like you actually are using legitimate products? So friend, I guarantee right now, if you are charging $99, then you're getting one type of clientele and one type of clientele only: the bargain shoppers and the pain up the asses. Okay? These are the clients that don't care about safety, about standards, about quality. This means that they are also the clients that are not going to come back, that aren't going to purchase your retail, that aren't going to spread the word about you, because this clientele only cares about one thing. They care about quick, cheap. So if you're struggling, if you have barely any clients booked, if you can't pay your bills, if you can't get a booked schedule, it's because I bet you are targeting this target market. And this target market, friend, they are not loyal. They will not pay your bills. You need to level up. You need to start providing a real service. Think of an occupation, okay? You need to be the licensed professional, and you need to make sure that your clients are safe. You need to make sure that you're providing a service that is actually true. And you also need to be charging appropriately for it. I really do think that if over the next few years we can clean up product safety, education, and also pricing, I really think the dental community could see us as allies opposed to sworn enemies, because honestly, dentists don't have time for this service. There's a need for this service to be done outside of the dental office, but it needs to be done correctly. So friend, what do you think about the JUMPSTART technique? I really hope that this was something that you mull over and really start thinking about your processes. I would flag you if you are over 60 minutes, okay? If you're doing more than 2 rounds, you're dehydrating. If you are working with straight hydrogen products, especially again at multiple intervals, you're dehydrating. If you are putting the patient under the light for a set amount of time before and after the gel, you are dehydrating. If you only focus on that after photo and that you are as bright as possible, I put money on it. If you're not seeing any yellow tones anywhere, you are dehydrating. So friend, don't get me wrong. Chairside whitening, you can get results. They are just limited. That's the whole purpose of the JUMPSTART technique. It's there to jumpstart that beautiful smile, but it is not the end result in most cases. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have a client that's quite bright, maybe you can definitely get some one-time chair results, but we're talking long-term, you don't have to come back for years results. That's a mixture of chairside and take home. If you want to dive in more about the scientifics of the tooth, I do highly recommend the Tooth Whitening textbook. You can get it on Amazon. It's the evidence-based approach. New published edition just launched. Great studies that are going to show you everything that I just chatted about, but in much more detail. It's amazing. I would also check out any research papers by John Hayward. He's also one of the longest studied and cited dentists on safety of tooth whitening. Now, you're going to be surprised that a lot of his published researches are on low and slow at home because, again, chairside whitening is deemed as the false result. And then also Linda Greenwald is a great one. She's based in the UK. She's seen as the queen of teeth whitening. And again, she heavily advocates for low and slow at home. So these are not to steer you away from chairside whitening. It's just make sure that you're going into it with a open mindset for yourself when it comes to results, because that's the number one pet peeve I have is, technicians being like, well, show me your before and after pictures, because that's only one piece of the puzzle. And 99% of the time, they're just dehydrated. So really just start being easier on yourself and start giving your patients more accurate outcomes that are legitimate, right? This is how it actually happens for safe and effective whitening. And also think about how you can tie in take-home whitening. Don't be afraid of it. I know a lot of you are afraid that if you offer take-home options, then they're not going to come see you in chair session. But if you pitch it and you explain it as the two go together, not separate, friend, you're going to double your revenue because you're going to be able to tack on that extra take-home for an additional profit that's going to make your chair time worth even more to you. So don't be afraid of it. Work them together. Don't think they can't be done together and that it has to be one or the other. Honestly, they're besties. Get the best of both worlds. Get your chairside and your take home. And also, friend, keep me in the loop if you have any questions, but this I feel like really had to be said. Please stop providing false results for your clients and start helping us build a safe and effective industry. Until next week, keep safe for yourself and your patients, and I can't wait to bring another episode to you soon. Have a great week, and this was another episode of Whitening Wednesday.